my philosophy, for what it's worth, is that you can't deal with problems unless you talk about them. Just going to children or teenagers and saying, don't do this thing, child, don't do this, it's very bad for you. Most teenagers, you get to 16 and you're like, oh, right. Because at that point, your parents have made so many mistakes, because they're humans, that you're not going to listen to them, right? This is why, historically, like for 10,000 years, every culture in the world has used storytelling as the way to pass on moral values. Because when you read a story about somebody who's not you, you can see it more clearly. And you go, oh, maybe starving yourself to death is not a great life choice. Because I can see how that's affecting that character. I can see how unhappy she is. So that book was probably, I don't know, the new book is too. That book and my new book that's coming out in January were the most emotional books I think I had. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, yes?
And then you like start writing another, like, you know, like just going back and forth.
Books flirt with you. Did you know this? Characters are big flirts, especially when you run into writer's block, right? So you're working on book A, you've got this great idea, and you start writing, and it's great, and then you don't know what to say. You get stuck. Then book B comes along and starts flirting and says, hey, leave her. I'm more fun. I have all, and you're like, oh yeah, you're more fun. and it's tough, but what I guarantee what will happen is like 40 pages in the book B, you'll be like, oh, I'm stuck. Book C will come along and say, hey there, big boy, right? So what I do when that happens, I always have a file on my computer that's book ideas, and if because sometimes it is a good idea, and so I'll give myself like 10 minutes to just do a brain dump. This could be a great idea, and then I go back. And if it still keeps bugging me, then what I'll do is at the end of every writing session, I'll like leave myself 15 minutes as kind of a reward to work on the fun book. But if there's one quality you need to succeed in life, at anything in life, it's self-discipline. And that doesn't come naturally to many people. It's something that you slowly learn how to do over time. But particularly if you're going to go into the arts, because no one's like showing up at my doorstep with money in their pockets. I have to make work before I get paid for it. No one's going to there to help me. So self-discipline is my most valuable tool. And that means ignoring the attractive, fun book that's trying to seduce me and staying with my tried and true one. Does that make sense? 4 minutes. Yes?
Okay, so knowing that sometimes when you write about your characters, you kind of almost turn into them.
Yeah.
Would you ever write something like extremely, like something that you've never been, like a psychopath or something, and write really deeply about it, or would you not try your chances then?
She's assuming you've never been a psychopath.
Thank you very much. That's very generous. I think that would be fascinating. Yeah. I think but I also think you have to know yourself. And emotionally, I'm in a really good place right now. Like when my mom was dying, I was not in a great place, and so for me to at that point have tried something like that would not have been good for me or the book. But as long as I'm in a healthy place, I'll do anything. Guys, yeah.
Have you ever turned into your character?
Have I? No.
For a while?
Well, you know my kids. Because my kids have seen, there was one time, this book didn't get written, but I was working on a book that's kind of a murder mystery, because I like to read those. And I didn't realize my kids were home from school. And there was a scene in which somebody had to go downstairs with a baseball bat. and there were some physical things about the description of like trying to be really quiet. And so I didn't notice my kids were in the family room, and I went around the corner, I went down to the basement, and I was like this. And I was muttering, and I often mutter to myself as I'm writing, and that's scary. That's why I can't write in public. And I can't, and then I got to the bottom of the stairs, and I was like, okay, no, I know how to do this scene. And I went upstairs, my kids were all standing there like, what are you doing? You know? So I guess maybe a little bit more than this is why we have to be alone when we write, because the dogs don't tell.